The best late-night conservative talk show in America, Sackheads Radio. And listen, there are no people better on the air to give you the best in conservative talk than Sackhead Sean and Sackhead Clint. And we're working on the immigration papers for a certain other guy who happens to work here, too. For those who are tuning in around the world to the best in late-night conservative talk, Sackheads Radio.
Hard, 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 do.
Hard, 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 do. Hard, 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 do. Hard, 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 do.
The best late-night conservative talk show in America. In America.
In America.
And in this web was a large, I'm pretty sure it was the biggest spider I've ever seen.
Well, I'm pretty sure it was the biggest spider I've ever seen, too. Well, welcome to the best in late-night talk radio. It's the Sackheads radio show on the SHR Media Network. It's conservative media done right. Good morning, good day, good evening, boys and girls, ladies and gentlemen, children of all ages. It is, in fact, the bloviating Zeppelin, the one who bloviates. I think you know how I got that name by now. It's rather windy out here, and having listened to the other stuff that's occurred on poor Ken's show, my goodness, what a trial and tribulation that was. But I sense it sort of all around the nation, as we say. Sackheads Clint, unfortunately, will not be able to make it tonight. Sackheads Sean is battling traffic on I-5 in the wind and the rain, because he actually has a job and he actually needs to pay his mortgage. He's on his way here. He'll be here as soon as he possibly can. I called and said, take your time. All will be well. We've got an audience. Ladies and gentlemen, to everyone in chat, thank you for being here. Thank you for listening. Ken, I feel sorry for you, my brother. But it seems like it's something that's been going all around the nation right now. There are in Sacramento, Sackheads Radio is located about 50 feet underground, not terribly far away from the very Capitol building itself. See, that's the glorious thing about Sackheads. Unfortunately, no one has told you this, and Sean is not here to tell me that I can't say this. But near the corner of 4th and T, which used to be the Stroll in downtown Sacramento, is a small concrete round hole in which, if you take off this heavy metal lid, years ago it used to be used to access electrical conduits in the sewer. But no, having spent at least, to my knowledge, and Sean can correct me, at least $1.5 million to renovate this area, it's absolutely glorious, and that's where we are. It's bad and it's good simultaneously that the leftists downtown in Sacramento, in the veritable belly of the beast, don't know how close we are to them, so that they cannot send their evil minions over here to try to pour water down the bunker. The nice thing is also Sackhead Sean and Clint have spent everything necessary to make sure that well, you should see the studio. I'll take a photograph one time. When I first got here, I was very surprised. There's a bank of 6 55-inch flat screen monitors that I'm looking at right now, because we monitor at Sackheads and at SHR Media everything that goes on around the world. Period. End of statement. So the nice thing about that is I can see all, we know all. That's why we're the media network to be with. So again, thank you for being here. If you didn't hear it, something very interesting. Jeff Dunitz earlier nabbed an interview with Kurt Schlichter. For those of you unfamiliar with him, and I suspect almost nobody here in chat and the folks that are listening to us live, most everybody knows who Kurt Schlichter is. I have not yet heard it because I had some other things to do today. But if you want to hear it, go to Sackheads and go in there, and you'll see that Jeff has already created a point where you can go in, click on that, listen to the interview. Knowing Jeff, as I do, he interviewed me on his show one time. Thanks again, Jeff. I'm sure he did a wonderful, wonderful interview. And tip of my hat, even though there's not much under there in terms of hair anymore, but tip of my hat to Jeff. What a great, great grab that is. Now, the funny thing is, for me, coming on the way here tonight I should say, I can honestly say I have never seen wind like this before in Sacramento. Now, Sean was tweeting that the winds are up to 50 miles an hour. Quite frankly, I would not be surprised. It was one of those things where I was up to a major intersection. Well, number one, all the intersections coming here, because it's about, I don't know, maybe 10 miles away for me to get here. Every other intersection was out, completely black, and it's like everyone had been thrown into this massive dice cup, and it went rattle, 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 and then they slapped it on the desk, and then only a few people could grok the concept that, when the intersection is black, you don't just automatically shoot through because you're so wonderful. I saw probably 4 near misses, near T-bone accidents on the way over here. It's like when you turn off the lights, the party is in fact over, and that also includes the party in your head. So if you're driving around anywhere in Sacramento right now, for all I know, it could be the same way in D.C., heads up, it's dark, and if it's even darker, you might want to think, did the lights up here, does this look like an intersection? Does this look like someplace I should simply breeze through? Word to the wise, important safety tip. Those other little lights, like little dots that are to the left and to the right of you and that are oncoming, those are called cars. And if you zip through an intersection, don't be surprised if you almost get into an accident, or if you do get into an accident because you're stupid enough and daft enough to not realize that's a major intersection up there. That's about 75 cars waiting their turn to get through this major intersection, and you have to wait your turn. Holy Mother of God, are people stupid when there's no electrical? And the electrical is in fact out. When Sackhead Sean gets here, we're going to be talking, it's like, again, where do you start with the topics? There's so much to talk about. One of the things that I might throw out to you, if you haven't yet watched him, as it's no surprise, Megyn Kelly went away from Fox News. And she went over to NBC, and instead of doing 5 shows a week, as she had done with Fox, I guess she's going to be doing only 2, and 2 different shows on 2 separate days, and so she gets paid at least as much money, if not more, and she gets to stay home with her family. And as far as I'm concerned, great. Good on her. Outstanding. If that's what you can negotiate in your contract, because that's what you do in the private industry, is you are what you negotiate, whether you're black, white, pink, purple, or burnt umber, it doesn't make any difference. You are what you negotiate. And if that's what she's done, if that's what she wants to do, excellent, great for her. So she left. Well, her replacement is in sort of that empty area, was Tucker Carlson. And I want to tell you, if you haven't yet watched Tucker Carlson, boy, are you missing something. You're missing a grand, grand time. The thing I enjoy about Tucker Carlson is he's got this sort of CPL look on his face when he interviews someone. And of course, right now you're asking yourself, what is the CPL? The CPL is what I used to get from students when I was teaching EVOC, and I was trying to give them a concept and they wouldn't quite, then you could see in their minds the gears are turning, the light's not quite illuminated. It's like the generator hasn't quite reached max power yet. But the CPL is what I call the canine puzzlement look, and I'm sure you've seen it in your dog. It's when your dog looks at you, you've just told him or her, Max, I need you to do something, and then Max looks at you with these sort of blank eyes, and the head gets tilted just ever so slightly. That's the CPL. And the thing that I love about Tucker Carlson is he utilizes the CPL to a wonderful degree when he's asking what are seemingly innocuous questions of his guests. And as he's waiting for their responses or listening to their responses, he proffers the CPL. So that you look at him on the television and you think, wow, does he understand just what he asked this person? And the corollary to that is that person going to be stupid enough to try to answer this question that he just threw at them, which is quite above their heads? I love the innocent look on his face, and he's a younger guy, so he can pull it off. He pulls off the CPL, the Tucker Carlson CPL, with brain-glazing wonderment. He had on an individual last night who was some kind of a Caucasoid, weird, millennial, Gen Z, fill-in-the-blanker, who had apparently handed out flyers saying that they were going to pay $2,500 a month, paid protesters, to go to D.C. He had him on the show. I'm going to have to locate the video. It's too amazing to be believed. But this guy was completely an airhead. And Tucker Carlson slashed him 7 ways to Sunday. The guy kept changing his answers, and it's as if Tucker Carlson, he thought he was going to pull the wool over Tucker Carlson's eyes. And instead, Tucker Carlson turned the situation completely 180 on him and slapped him in the face right up front, saying, you say your name is such and such. Well, we've done all our investigation. We know that's not your name. This isn't who you represent. Your website's a piece of crap. It has no verification whatsoever. What's your point, and what are you doing here? And the guy conversely asked him, well, would you let me on here? What he was basically trying to do was intimate that Fox News is fake news, and that I, as this highly intelligent millennial, I can get away with being on Tucker Carlson and pointing out to you how completely vacuous you and Fox News really are, when in fact the reverse was occurring. Tucker Carlson was skewering this guy, and he had no idea, essentially, that he was being hoisted on the petard of his own creation. It was absolutely glorious to see. If you haven't watched the show, all right, I am not a shill for Fox News. I don't get paid by Fox News. None of that stuff. But anyway, it's an interesting show to look at. Today's Wednesday. We have 2 more days until the 45th President of the United States becomes official. And that president is Donald Trump. It's not Hillary Clinton. It's not anyone else. It's not any of the other, I think it was, what was it originally, 15, 16, 17 original Republicans who started to run for candidate. And it started early, and it was a tedious process, and we finally got to the point where Donald Trump was the nominee, but not for every Republican imaginable, trying to throw fecal matter on the windshield of the public media eye. Not that the media didn't already try to do that anyway. And try to become, well, not try, they were the shill for Hillary Rodham Clinton. Now in 2 days, Donald Trump is going to become president. I've been on this planet, let's just say this is my 7th decade. I'm not a young thing. I'm certainly not pleasing to look at. I do, in fact, have a face made for radio, which is why I started there many years ago, because, God's sakes, I certainly couldn't be on television. But in all my time, I have never seen mass paranoia on this scale in any country before. When the Chinese said, "May you live in interesting times," they were absolutely 100% correct. And essentially, if you don't know it, "May you live in interesting times" was the Chinese way of saying, "Screw you." And in many, many ways, we are in fact being screwed. But I have never in my life seen such a massive, incredible, staggering volume of persons who are absolutely off their rocker. That I don't quite know how else to quantify it. They're off their rocker. As of this point, we've got 100 people in the Senate. We've got 435 in the House. There are 60 plus elected individuals, all Democrats, who have said that they are not going to show up at the inauguration. What happened, Democrats, to that wonderful, kind, peaceful, tolerant transition of power that you expected, nay, you would have demanded for Hillary Rodham Clinton? What happened to the conviviality, the pat on the back, job well done for someone who ran a hard race, is the president-elect, and then will be installed as President number 45, POTUS, in the White House January 20th? What happened to it? It all went away. It's all gone. And it has like a terrible infection. And I'm unsure at this point that it can actually be treated. I'm not sure that there's any kind of an antibiotic that would be able to treat something like this, because it is so incredibly, massively unhinged and off the hook. It's all emotive, all of it. Very little facts, and it's completely, entirely representative of what leftists, Democrats, progressives, socialists, communists, anarchists do. They're all damned emos. Period. End of statement. It's as if we've all stepped into some kind of an odd twilight zone, and because Donald Trump is going to be president, we're all going to die. Being considerate, being kind, having any kind of respect whatsoever for a smooth transition of power, that shite is all out the door. And the leftists, Democrats, 60 of them at least, now I think there are more, have made it abundantly clear that they are absolutely not interested in anything having to do with supporting Donald Trump at all. Nothing. I've never, in my advanced age, never seen anything or anyone treated like this in such a negative, over-the-top, nonsensical, insane fashion as what's occurring now. The legislators that are doing that, obviously all of them Democrats, are doing what I think they think their constituents want them to do. Hang on for a second, I'm going somewhere. That's in D.C. Conversely, in the media and in the entertainment world, the leftists there are doing their level best to be equally emotive and equally daft. It's just nutty. And it's all about emotions. And it's all punitive. For God's sakes, ladies and gentlemen, when a 16-year-old girl wants to sing at the inauguration and a 16-year-old girl receives death threats for wanting to do this, how do you respond to something like that? What kind of a mind does it take to lower yourself to that level? What happens? What has happened to people in America when Steve Harvey, a black entertainer, he hosts a game show, goes to meet with Donald Trump a couple of days ago, and he gets quantified simply by meeting with Donald Trump, if for no other reason, just to hear what he says. And he gets typified as a mediocre Negro. So essentially what black activists are saying is that he's an Uncle Tom. Who are the other Uncle Toms? Well, let's see. From yesterday, if I'm not mistaken, it was the niece of Martin Luther King Jr. I guess you'd have to call her an Uncle, Thomasina? It was Martin Luther King III. It was Don King. It was Jim Brown. Hey, here's what I'd like to see. I'd really like to see this, wouldn't you? Wouldn't you like to see some little anarchist come up to Jim Brown or some other individual, doesn't matter their melanin count, walk up to Jim Brown and call him to his face an Uncle Tom? Oh, I'd like to see the video of that, because you know there would be video. So where have we gone as a society when people want to show up at the inauguration and pay some semblance of respect to Donald Trump, whilst simultaneously in Hollywood, people who are even on the cusp, not just embracing Donald Trump, but sort of semi-remaining neutral a bit. Nicole Kidman, for example, came out with something not entirely pro-Donald Trump, but she certainly wasn't advocating negatively against Donald Trump. And she's been absolutely excoriated, absolutely skewered by the leftists in Hollywood. Make no mistake, that's a sign, that's a signal, that's a message being sent. She's an A-lister, so to speak. The message is, all you other A, B, and C listers in Hollywood, you'd all better get your arses together and say and do in a monolithic, no-holds-barred fashion that you're all going to hate Donald Trump, or there's going to be consequences. And the consequences is all those lovely parties that you like to go to, you'll not be included. All those scripts that you used to be sent, though you probably won't be getting very many of those again. All the songwriters that used to solicit you to sing their songs, you might not get many of those again. It's a clear message being sent. And I submit that the Hollywood leftists are in the same hole as the Democrats, leftists, progressives, etc., in D.C. There's a lesson to be learned here. You haven't learned your damn lesson. The lesson is, Number one, elections have consequences. I won, meaning Donald Trump. Now, if that was sufficient for Barack Hussein Obama to say, apparently not so sufficient here. But he's going to be the President of the United States, number 45. At this point now, there's nothing, zero, end of statement that you can do to stop it. Joe Biden said, it's done. Move on. Even he recognized last week, it's done, it's gone. Move on. Well, they're not going to. DC's not going to. The Hollywood elites are not going to. The American media maggots are not going to. They're not learning the lesson. So yes, there will be consequences, but the consequences that are coming are not exactly what they expect. DC leftists are voted in. DC leftists can be voted out. The statistics about who got voted out are incredibly staggering. They're just incredible. And I'll tell you what, when we come back, I'll talk about some of those statistics. And the funny thing is, in terms of these statistics, President Obama, for only 2 more days, he still polls rather well. His policies? No, they don't. They just don't. Be right back. Sackheads Radio, the best in late night talk radio. Coming right back.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network. Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
Breaking news. According to the latest report coming out of SHR Media, a merchandise store to support both the Reaver of Common Sense and SHR Media has just been unleashed to the general public. Be forewarned that this site can be contagious and numerous items can be purchased to support the best news programming. Go to Reaver.one website and click on the store link to check out the merchandise.
Hello, I'm Matt, a student at Hillsdale College. Here is Hillsdale President Larry Arnn on the continuing relevance of the Constitution.
Many argue today that the Constitution is outdated because it addresses problems peculiar to the 18th century. Some parts of the Constitution do read rather quaintly. Consider the injunction against titles of nobility in Article 1, Section 9 of the Constitution. But is that so outdated? The purpose of the injunction is to prevent the government granting special privileges to some for partisan reasons. This strikes at the heart of the rule of law. The crony capitalism so common today is a place where the government bestows favors and tax dollars on some businesses to give them a leg up over others. This is exactly the kind of thing the Constitution was meant to prohibit. The Constitution is not so outdated after all.
This Constitution Minute was brought to you by Hillsdale College. To join the national conversation on the Constitution, go to constitutionminute.com.
Times are dark. The people misled by corrupt politicians, lied to by establishment media, and deceived by the false messages of Islam. A nation in confusion needs a guide. It needs a man with a cane. I'm Dave Milner. Join me on Spreaker, SHR Media, High Plains Talk Radio, Live Rebooting Liberty, and YouTube for a unique brand of commentary on the unpleasant blind guide. Because truth is not always pleasant.
In a world controlled by corrupt politicians.
You got a business. You didn't build that.
A team of ordinary men emerge from the ashes to give voice to the voiceless and hope to the hopeless. Sackhead Sean.
Dude, I'm not saying calf was stupid, bro.
Sackhead Clint.
All good friends of ours usually show up drunk.
Also starring Sacco as the producer.
I'm a little bit drunk, I'm a little bit drunk, 'cause I'm drinking, drinking, drinking.
They are the Sackheads Radio Show. Every Wednesday at 8 p.m. Pacific on shrmedia.com.
Beware, the Jersey Takeover is here. Every Monday through Friday, 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. You can catch the Reaver of Common Sense show, hosted by Jersey Joe, right here on shrmedia.com and highplainsdailynews.com. Only Jersey can deliver hell like no one else, so consider this your fair warning.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, you are in fact listening to the Sackheads Radio Show on the SHR Media Network. This is conservative media done right. Thank God. Welcome back. Thanks for listening to the Sackheads Radio Show. Sackheads Clint is not here tonight. I think he's cleaning his fish tank or balancing his checkbook. I'm not quite sure. He actually may have lost power. He doesn't live too terribly far away from here, and like I said, coming in, the power outages were extremely, extremely spotty. You could go to one intersection, it was completely out. You could go to one neighborhood, and that's out as well. So it's just, he may still absolutely have no power and have a lot of things to do at home. Sackhead Sean is on his way over here. That has been confirmed. But I mean, it's terrible out there. I don't know what it's like in your area, in your neighborhood, but around here, the wind's literally... Here's an example. I came up to an intersection which actually had lights. I stopped. Have you ever been in watched a Hollywood movie where you can see it, there's some sort of green screen behind it, and the car is bumping along, you know, and what's actually happening is that there's 4 Hollywood techs on each corner of the car pushing the car up and down to make it look like it's moving. I swear, honest to God, I was up here at a light before I got here, and at a stop, and my car was doing exactly that, and that was nothing but the wind and the rain doing that to my automobile. So Sackheads Sean is encountering that kind of stuff right now, and I'm sure that he's having some great grand wind and rain. I was talking about the Hollywood media, and I was talking about the idiocy that is occurring in D.C., and without, you can't say that and talk about that and not include Barack Hussein Obama. Barack Obama said that elections have consequences. They certainly do. And views, the things that you think, the views that you hold, also have consequences. It's no shock that the media, the people on the left, leftists, the people in Hollywood, the entertainers, have all gone nutty. They've all gone nutso. First, they said that if Donald Trump was elected, that they were going to go to Canada. Well, that didn't happen, so much on making good on your promises for that. And then they were saying that they were going to get together and they wanted to go on strike to show that they have the power. The power is in their hands, the power of the people. And so I say, keep doing your silly-ass shite, Hollywood and leftists and global elitists, and particularly those in Hollywood right now, because you know what you are? In my pocketbook, you're discretionary money. I don't have to spend a damn thing on you. I get to pick and choose what kind of entertainment I want. And if I don't want to go into a theater to see a new movie, I'm not going to do it. Because more and more we are being striated. And I submit that that has occurred historically because of leftists. So the people in Hollywood, the people in D.C., you can't see what's occurring right in front of your faces. And it is. It's right in front of your face. There's going to be consequences, and the consequences are people are not going to start attending many more of your movies if you keep this stupid shite up. They don't have the capability to see that. But elections do have consequences. Remember earlier I said that Barack Hussein Obama he polls rather well. And, of course, he's been getting his face in front of the media, who can't get enough of him and will lick his shoes from now until forever. But even now, he had his last press conference, and the press just couldn't stop from fawning all over him and throwing little puffy tribble-like softball questions at him. What's your favorite color, President? Do you tie your own shoes, President? Hey, what is it? What color underwear do you wear? I'm sorry, that's already been used. So, he's still popular personally, but what is his actual legacy? Under Obama, the American voter consistently rejected the stance of the Democrats. For the past 8 years, 2008 to 2016, they lost 63 seats in the House, 10 seats in the Senate, and Republicans, again, from 2008 to 2016, gained 900 plus seats in state legislatures, along with 12 governorships across the U.S. What that translates to is that 2/3 of the governors in the nation are now Republicans. That's your legacy. That's what you're doing. There's going to be consequences for what you're doing. Now let's talk about, just briefly, what is going to happen on Friday. So I'd throw this out to you. What do you think is going to happen on Friday? It's not as though that a lot of anticipations have been made to the point where even the National Guard has been asked for assistance. But you can go to any leftist or anarchist website and read all the information about what they plan to do physically during the inauguration. Their goal is to shut off every access point for the inauguration for the parade. Shut off the streets, shut off the bridges, make choke points, and ensure that the American public, the American citizens who pay taxes, cannot access the inaugural. James O'Keefe of Project Veritas. And if you haven't seen this video, I highly, highly recommend it. James O'Keefe is the individual that made news originally when he portrayed the series of videos about Planned Parenthood and what all these butchers were planning to do to unborn children and how they're going to pot them out like bad cars. That's where James O'Keefe got his start doing those videos. Then, if you remember, last year, he had a series of videos showing how leftists planned to and were crowing about how consistently they've obstructed Republicans and conservatives, how they've supported and cheated and colluded with the American media to promote Hillary Clinton and to minimize conservatives. That's the same James O'Keefe. His new videos revolve around people talking about anarchy, what they're going to do, how they're going to do it, the violence that they're specifically going to use against persons who oppose them. Now, ladies and gentlemen, we have a First Amendment right to freedom of speech. You have the right to protest. You have the right to burn the flag. Let me stop there just for a moment. Do I want a constitutional convention opened so that we have an amendment that says you cannot burn the flag? No, I don't. That's ridiculous. It's a waste of time. For those people who are flag burners, you'll get yours. You always do. And you always will. That said, there is really no fine line between protesting, and if you want to protest, fine. I grew up in the 60s, for Christ's sake. I saw all the protests imaginable. Hell, I was a leftist in the 60s when I went to college. For Christ's sake, I lived in San Francisco for a time. I had friends in the Height. I was a part of it. I worked actively as a volunteer for George McGovern. I can remember that I had a high school instructor, basically, who said, however, and he leaned far left, but I had my civics teacher, if I'm not mistaken. He taught civics. Mr. Helms. My God, I still remember his name. And he said this, and it was right in the 60s, and it's right now. Democrats don't win elections. Republicans lose them. And that's very true if you think about that for a moment. The problem is, they didn't lose this time. So in my estimation, when leftists, millennials, Democrats, as typified by the 60-plus morons who are going to boycott, essentially, President-elect Trump's inaugural, you can protest and you can be an anarchist. You can say damn near anything you want. I'll support your right to free speech within certain reasons. When it gets to the point that you begin to trample on the rights of other individuals, that's where the line has to be drawn. When it gets to the point where you advocate physical violence against other individuals, that's where the line has to be drawn. James O'Keefe has video of persons saying that they will, in fact, commit violence. This is how they're going to do it. This is how many people they need to do it. These are the reasons why we're going to do it. And consequently, already having that immured on video, he did the right thing and sent copies of those videos to the various involved FBI areas. To which I say, bully for him. That's a great, great thing to do. But it's insanity writ large. I pretty much believe that there are excellent plans in place in D.C. to make sure that the president's family, anyone along the parade route, that they will be safe. There's a lot of people going to be there. Now the question is, we know that the leftists have said there's going to be an arseload of individuals coming to D.C. in order to do everything that they can to, literally, they want to stop the inauguration. They want it to stop. Their goal is to either stop it outright or at least send it inside somewhere so that their voices can be heard. I'm not yet exactly convinced that this is truly going to happen. It may. On the other hand, there's another possible little turd in the punch bowl for those people, and that's the many, many hundreds of bikers that are going to D.C. who have stated that it's going to be their job to ensure that the inaugural is not interfered with. That could be a really, really interesting situation. So Friday, I guess I should get to my damn point. Friday is going to be very interesting, so I'm curious what you guys think. Is it going to be an open melee? Is it going, are the leftists and anarchists going to get truly what they want? the whole shebang shut down, or they're going to find there's a lot of doors getting slammed in their face, and that their plans may not have been pulled off quite as readily as they think. But I'm here to tell you that the more they push, the more the left pushes, the more they're going to discover that there is, in fact, pushback. I talked about it last night on my radio show. That was my sort of job zero, if you will. Dave Milner, the unpleasant blind guy, sent me a message earlier today, and he says, I think I get it. Last night's show wasn't show 1, it was show 0. Show 1 is next week. And I said, yes, absolutely. That's what happened. Yesterday was a one-off kind of show. You're never going to hear another show like that again. You're going to hear the regular stuff starting next week. And boy, do I have some interesting stuff planned. If I can pull it off technically. Getting back to the issue, I think that the leftists are going to be really pleased as of Friday, or I think they're really going to be disappointed when it's discovered that they're not going to be able to pull off all the shite that they wanted to. I'm semi-up in the air about it. We'll just have to take a wait-and-see attitude. But no matter what, whatever you're doing, if you're at work, home, on an airplane, wherever you happen to be, oh my gosh, there's going to be a lot of people tuning in the television to see what happens during the inauguration. On the other hand, how do you like to beat Donald Trump, knowing that polls are indicating that you're the least favored president-elect in history? Oh, wait. Now it's discovered. I hope you're sitting down for this. It's discovered that some of those polls have been cribbed. That some of the mainstream media, what I call the American media maggots, have been jacking up the unpopularity of Donald Trump. Crying wolf. It's going to get to the point, mainstream media, American media maggots, where you keep doing this stuff and no one is going to believe anything that you say anymore, no matter how vaunted you are. You're losing respect on a daily basis. You're hemorrhaging cash and readers on a daily basis, and you're scared. You're frightened. Trust me, there's a lot of bedwetting going on all across this nation in newsrooms, major newsrooms, all across America. There's bedwetting, there's hysterical pants-shiting going on all across the fruited plain of America because they're losing control. They're losing control. And that's what you're seeing as a reaction to what's going on in Hollywood and what's going on in D.C. and what's going on with those 60-plus Democrats that have said they're not going to attend the inauguration. They're losing control. They're the ones that are having to go out and buy Depends at night and put them in a plain brown bag and take them home because they're consistently wetting the bed and having to move the sheets out and put the plastic ones on. It is rampant, systemic, pants-shitting hysteria because they're losing control. And trust me, ladies and gentlemen, it's not just happening here in the United States. Go across the pond and see what's happening over there. They call it populism. I'd say it's coming to your senses. It's American taxpayers, EU taxpayers, saying, what has happened to our countries? What we believed in, leftism, is getting shoved up our collective arses, and we're watching the sovereignty of our nations, our very cultures. Oh my God, I use the C word, culture, because each country does in fact have a culture and has a right to keep that culture and be sovereign. So same thing that's happening in the United States is concurrently happening across the pond. We saw that with Brexit. What did we also see with all the polls in the EU? Brexit will never happen. And from that, after I saw that occur, I realized all the polls here in the United States are equal crap. And I was proven right. And it's a groundswell movement against the leftist elite who like to have coffee clutches and sip their lattes with their little pinky fingers extended, thinking about how they're going to slaughter the pockets of all the taxpayers so that the power and control goes to and is kept by them. They're the ones that are the Borg. They're the ones that are saying assimilate or die. Like I said last night, there's not a dime's worth of difference between the average leftist and Democrat now and Islam. You're either sucked into Islam, you're either a Muslim or you're an infidel. If you're an infidel, you're subject to being killed. Do what I call the logical extension. It's true for leftists here. It's true for leftists now. All right, I think I beat the shite out of that for enough time. I got about 3 more minutes or so before the break. Here's an interesting article from Yahoo News. Undocumented worker, you're going to love this. Undocumented worker sues San Francisco for violating sanctuary law. Reuters. Did you just hear that? Can you write this? Do you get it? I could never in a million years have seen this coming. And it's so insane that I have to read it to you. An undocumented immigrant from El Salvador is suing San Francisco, alleging police violated the city's sanctuary city policy by turning him in to U.S. immigration authorities after he reported his car being stolen. The lawsuit was filed on Tuesday on behalf of Pedro Figueroa Zarceño, 32, in federal court in San Francisco against the city and its police chief for violating his right to due process. His right to due process. Do you like that? And breaking an ordinance. Barring municipal employees from cooperating with federal immigration authorities seeking to deport a person. All right, chat room. What do we call that? The blank clause. I know what it is. I know you know what it is. Do you think federal law is superior to an ordinance in the city of Sacramento? Oh, but wait, it gets more grand. Figueroa walked into a police station in November 2015 to report his car stolen, according to the lawsuit. 2 days later, the car was found, and when he went to recover it, he was handcuffed. Imagine the umbrage, the outrage. I've been handcuffed. And led outside where federal immigration agents were waiting for him, the lawsuit said. The civil action comes as San Francisco and dozens of other U.S. cities face pressure from President-elect Donald Trump, who takes office on Friday, to abandon their policies of limiting cooperation between law enforcement officers and U.S. immigration authorities. Do you not find just a molecule's worth of irony in that story, like myself? Oh my. I'll tell you what. I believe fervently that there's going to be more grand stuff coming back. And I do believe that we're going to be back right after this.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
Breaking news. According to the latest report coming out of SHR Media, a merchandise store to support both the Reaver of Common Sense and SHR Media has just been unleashed to the general public. Be forewarned that this site can be contagious and numerous items can be purchased to support the best news programming. Go to Reaver.one website and click on the store link to check out the merchandise.
Hello, I'm Matt, a student at Hillsdale College. Here's Hillsdale President Larry Arnn on the continuing relevance of the Constitution.
Many argue today that the Constitution is outdated because it addresses problems peculiar to the 18th century. Some parts of the Constitution do read rather quaintly. Consider the injunction against titles of nobility in Article 1, Section 9 of the Constitution. But is that so outdated? The purpose of the injunction is to prevent the government granting special privileges to some for partisan reasons. This strikes at the heart of the rule of law. The crony capitalism so common today is a place where the government bestows favors and tax dollars on some businesses to give them a leg up over others. This is exactly the kind of thing the Constitution was meant to prohibit. The Constitution is not so outdated after all.
This Constitution Minute was brought to you by Hillsdale College. To join the national conversation on the Constitution, go to constitutionminute.com.
Times are dark. The people misled by corrupt politicians, lied to by establishment media, and deceived by the false messages of Islam. A nation in confusion needs a guide. It needs a man with a cane. I'm Dave Milner. Join me on Spreaker, SHR Media, High Plains Talk Radio, Live Rebooting Liberty, and YouTube for a unique brand of commentary on the unpleasant blind guide. Because truth is not always pleasant.
In a world controlled by corrupt politicians,
You got a business. You didn't build that.
a team of ordinary men emerge from the ashes to give voice to the voiceless and hope to the hopeless. Sackhead Sean.
Dude, I'm not saying Kafka was stupid, bro.
Sackhead Clint.
All good friends of ours usually show up drunk.
Also starring Sacco as the producer.
I'm a little bit drunk, I'm a little bit drunk, 'cause I'm drinking, drinking, drinking.
They are the Sackheads Radio Show. Every Wednesday at 8 p.m. Pacific on SHRmedia.com.
Beware, the Jersey Takeover is here. Every Monday through Friday, 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. You can catch the Reaver Common Sense Show, hosted by Jersey Joe, right here on SHRmedia.com and HighPlainsDailyNews.com. Only Jersey can deliver hell like no one else, so consider this your fair warning.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
And we are. We are the SHR Media Network. This is the Sackheads Radio Show, the finest, and I repeat with underlines, italics, all caps. Oh, I forgot bold. The finest late night and right talk show on the planet for its time from 8 p.m. until 11 p.m. Pacific and 11 p.m. until 1 a.m. Eastern on Wednesdays. It is the finest show then. I'm going to make an award for exactly that because I know it is, in fact, the absolute truth. Now I'm going to try an experiment here, and because I'm a techno-Luddite, I don't know if I'll be able to pull it off. But if I can't pull it off, I'll at least be able to read the information to you. Remember when I told you about Tucker Carlson on Fox News? And that there was a particular interview with an individual who was a former, well, it turns out I didn't say this, but he is in fact a former Black Panther. Now this guy had the temerity to tell the truth on national television about Democrats and John Lewis. Let's see. I've got this queued up. I'm going to have to turn all the volumes up here, I do believe. And I'll find out if I can do it. Let's see if you can hear this. Can you believe what this guy is saying? Can you believe that he's actually talking like this? He's telling the truth in this fashion? This is brain glazing. This is astounding. This guy just called the Black Caucus communist. The Democratic Party has always been the party of abuse. Can you believe this? A former Black Panther saying this about the Democrats and about John Lewis. John Lewis is the illegitimate congressman. Hey, have you heard that as a pull quote for the past 2 days from anyone in the American media maggots? I don't think you have. Now, the question, was there one thing wrong with what that guy said? I can't refute him on one thing. Not one thing. Not a thing. Now, I don't have chat open right now. That came through wonderfully in my headphones. It came out nice and strong. I can't see what you're saying, but if you can let me know personally, because it's going to have a great deal to do with how I conduct my show, and if it doesn't work out, I'm going to have to figure out some way of making it work. Or send me a tweet, @BZEP. That would be appreciated as well. Number one, could you hear that clip? In my headphones right here, I heard it very well. It was plain as day, it was strong, it was clear. So, could you hear it? Let me know. And if you couldn't hear it very well, how low was it? How poorly was the volume on that? So if you would, let me know. You can either do it in chat or send a tweet to me @BZEP, because I would very, very much like to know, because I'm still trying to figure out how to make all this stuff work, so to speak, on this board. Because I'm working the board, I'm working the SHR laptop, and I've got my laptop going. Unfortunately, I can't do 10 things at once. I can't multitask quite like Sackhead Sean can, because I'm a techno-Luddite, as I said. But wasn't that great? I don't know. Okay, if you heard it, it was grand. But if you didn't, basically what happened is that Tucker Carlson interviewed a former Black Panther named Mason Weaver on Tucker Carlson's Monday show. And Mr. Weaver spoke a closely guarded truth that almost no one from the left to some of the right even want to hear. Mason Weaver named and shamed, including John Lewis, the individual, the representative from Georgia, who said that Trump's presidency was illegitimate. And actually, frankly, it was John Lewis that started all this ridiculous shite on the Democrats, saying that the 60-plus of them are not going to attend Donald Trump's inauguration. Dave Milner said, no sound on clip. All right, thank you. Well, I have to say, I apologize for wasting your time then for the past 5 minutes, because it came across here. All right, I've got some techno stuff to do on that. I got to figure out why I can hear it and why you guys can't. All right, so I'm glad that I'm going over this. So basically what that clip said is that Mason Weaver, he named, he shamed, he named John Lewis, he named Al Sharpton, and he named the Congressional Black Caucus, which he called the Congressional Communist Black Caucus. So Mason Weaver called John Lewis a civil rights turncoat, a fraud, a sellout, who at one point in his early life faced tear gas and dogs in black protests alongside Martin Luther King Jr. John Lewis actually took a brick in the head on March 7th of 1965 when he and Hosea Williams led 600 marches across the Edmund Pettus Bridge in Selma, Alabama. And everyone now has heard about Selma. But now Lewis works for his oppressor, whom we've quantified as the Democrat Party, in alignment with Jesse Jackson and Al Sharpton. Mr. Weaver said that John Lewis has gotten rich as Black America has gotten poor. He's gotten more powerful as Black America has gotten more poor. He said, John Lewis, bless his heart, it took courage to do what he did in his early life. What he has done now, he has turned himself to his enemy. Weaver said that Lewis is like, what an analogy. He said Lewis is like a little girl being beaten by daddy and joins daddy. and like a woman being beaten by a husband who joins the husband. Lewis said that Donald Trump is not a legitimate president. Then Weaver calls Lewis an illegitimate congressman. He called him a turncoat who collaborated with the Democrat Party to oppress black America. He basically threw the gauntlet down. He said, Weaver said he couldn't understand why any African American could identify as a Democrat, calling themselves the party, he called them the party of the Klan, and the party that went to war to keep slaves. Those are incredible allegations. He also said, if you're a real man, John Lewis, you stand up tomorrow and you apologize. Well, as has been said, only Nixon can go to China. Apparently, only Mason Weaver can tell the truth about American blacks and the Democrat Party. I find that refreshingly honest. Absolutely refreshingly honest. In the meantime, on Tuesday, there was a small little thingy that went unnoticed. This is a story carried it last week. If you haven't seen it, and I'll bet most of the people here have, it's the painting that was hung in the Capitol hallway connecting the Capitol to two of the House buildings. And the painting basically showed cops as pigs. There's a cop as a pig holding a gun, and there's a particular black person splayed on a cross. Hey, it's It's Sackhead's Sean, and boy, is he well armed. He's got two of them. In any event, this absolutely despicable painting has been hanging in the tunnel connecting the Capitol and the House buildings in D.C., and then what happened is it got taken down, it got put back up, it got taken down, it got put back up, and at one point, this is grand, somebody placed a thin blue line American flag above it. Well, yesterday, it actually finally went away. Now, there was an article in The Hill that said, cop painting to be removed from Capitol Complex next week, meaning it's already gone. After a week-long tug-of-war between Representative Lacey Clay and House Republicans, a controversial painting depicting police officers as animals displayed in the Capitol Complex is coming down for good. The painting had been displayed in a tunnel connecting the Capitol and two House office buildings as part of an annual high school student art competition, but conservative media outlets only took notice in the last month, leading individual GOP lawmakers to personally remove it from the wall 3 times over the past week. Representative Dave Reichert, a Republican from Washington, a former deputy sheriff, asked the architect of the Capitol on Wednesday to review whether the painting violated rules of the student art competition that prohibit subjects of contemporary political controversy or a sensationalistic or gruesome nature. The competition guidelines adhere to the policy of the House Office Building Commission, which is currently controlled by GOP leaders. Something as offensive as that Polfus painting, in my opinion, has absolutely no place whatsoever in the U.S. Capitol. The U.S. Capitol is a building that was created to represent all the American people. There's only one reason that the Congressional Black Caucus went out of its way to offend and embarrass law enforcement and then threaten those people who'd been taking it down. And that's this, because they can. At one point, this was said by a Congressional Black Caucus member. We may have to kick somebody's ass and stop them, said Representative Cedric Richmond, chairman of the CBC. Tell you what, ladies and gentlemen, since Sackhead Sean is back, let's go to a commercial break. Let's have a little bit of a break, and let's put him on the radio. What do you think, eh, Walt? I think we should. We'll be right back.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
Hey, it's Sean from the Sackheads Radio Show, also one of the owners here at the SHR Media Network. Are you opinionated? Have you ever wanted to do your own show? Have you ever heard somebody like the Sackheads and go, yeah, I could probably do that better? Well, now's your chance. Send me a 5-minute clip at sackheadsradio@gmail.com, and maybe you can be part of the SHR broadcasting team. sackheadsradio@gmail.com.
Times are dark. The people are misled by corrupt politicians, lied to by establishment media, and deceived by the false messages of Islam. A nation looking for direction needs a guide. It needs a man with a cane. I'm Dave Milner. Join me on Spreaker, SHR Media, Pundit Press Radio, and YouTube through the SHR Media page for a different kind of commentary on the unpleasant blind guy. Because the truth is not always pleasant.
In a world controlled by corrupt politicians.
You got a business. You didn't build that.
A team of ordinary men emerge from the ashes to give voice to the voiceless and hope to the hopeless. Sackhead Sean.
Dude, I'm not saying Captain is stupid, bro.
Sackhead Clint.
All good friends of ours usually show up drunk.
Also starring Sacco as the producer.
I'm a little bit drunk, I'm a little bit drunk, 'cause I'm drinking, drinking, drinking.
They are the Sackheads Radio Show. Every Wednesday at 8 p.m. Pacific on shrmedia.com.
The bloviating Zeppelin. He's big-footed enough radio shows to last a lifetime, courtesy of Sean, Clint, Ken, and Jersey Joe. Now it's time for him to waddle on his own 2 feet via the glorious SHR Media. Gird thy loins for the bloviating Zeppelin's Berserk Bobcat Saloon. Coming soon to Ossicles near you. Excelsior.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
Welcome back. We are back, aren't we? Here on the Sackheads Radio Show, live on the SHR Media Network.
Am I here? Oh, there I am. I am on.
You are there. I'm here. I think you turned my headphones down a tick, though. There we go. Now I can hear me. I couldn't hear me before.
Okay, you'll have to show me what that knob was. Because now I can even hear you a hell of a lot better. That's the magic knob that I wanted to find.
It's all about the
It was protesting me, obviously. You know what? Here's the deal. I'm just going to ask you right now, since you're here. I was going to ask you after the show, but what the hell, I'll do it right now. I had a video clip that I wanted to play.
Yes.
In my headphones, it came out great.
Right.
Okay?
Yep.
So, because I'm hearing it live, wonderful, it sounds great.
We couldn't hear it.
And so, after that, I said, hey, okay, guys, tell me the truth. I heard it quite fine here. Did you guys hear it? Nope. They didn't hear it. They didn't hear it. So, question to you. The magic knob that you just turned right there
will not fix that.
That will not fix that.
No.
Okay.
It has to do with the audio codec. You have to actually upload the audio to the player, to Spreaker. You can't just play it on the computer and have it automatically come over. It doesn't recognize that as an audio input. It's just an internet page.
I think it needs to have its arse kicked then.
Well, I don't disagree. I don't disagree at all. Agador in the chat room said, that's a magic knob I always wanted to find. The story of my life.
Yeah, no kidding.
2.5 hours into my commute, I finally made it to SHR Media Studios, and thank you for having me.
Holy crap.
I was telling you at the break, I've never experienced anything like this. Pardon me. Traffic was so abhorrent. At one point, I sat on a freeway with my truck in park and my seat leaned back for about 20 minutes.
Well, at least you got some sleep.
I got out, stretched my legs. Yeah, no, you know the hellacious week I've had.
Oh, yes, it's easy piece of cake, no problem.
At one point, I went 48 hours on 4 hours of sleep total. So it was a fun week, to say the very, very least. To have it round out nicely with the bout of traffic on the way here. I know you talked about
it's sort of the icing on the cake.
And I was actually I was listening on my way in. By the way, thank you so much for carrying the show tonight. But I was listening on the way in, and it was one of those things that I spent more time yelling at traffic in front of me. I'm from Boston, so I like to communicate when I drive. That's what I call that.
Right. I like to stand out on a corner, a busy corner, and I just like to yell at traffic just for no reason.
and I usually I will do that as well. But tonight it was amazing what people will do in traffic. Now I'm one of those people. I try not to lane jump in traffic. I try not to be that guy. I don't. All that does, if you ever pay attention to traffic on any level, that just makes things more difficult. When you lane jump and you try to catch to that one lane that's moving and then you cut back to the other lane that's moving, first and foremost, if you have a crash, you just screwed up traffic even more.
Oh, yes, and people will love you even more for that.
Oh, yeah. But the other thing that I hate is people that try to ride the break. Well, we used to call it breakdown lane back east, the shoulder, to try to sidestep traffic.
Oh, yeah, and pass everybody on the right.
And I decided about 40 minutes into my commute tonight, after I got passed by about the 30th person, that I said, you know what?
Screw it.
I have a big enough truck. So every time somebody was starting to come down the median, I didn't do it quickly, but very so slowly, I would ease into the breakdown lane a little bit and just watch as they start to go into the soft shoulder and make that oh shit decision. Am I going to drive into the mud and hopefully get back out, or am I just going to stop? And most of them were smart enough to stop.
Well, see, now that's the deal. If you've got a pickup truck, is it four-wheel drive?
I do not have four-wheel drive.
But you can still get out of that a lot better than, a Mini Cooper.
Easy. And actually, my truck handles very, very well in inclement weather. But it was mostly the hard shoulder I was blocking, because at one point we were being forced off the freeway onto a 2-lane off-ramp from 4 lanes of freeway. So you can imagine that bottleneck right there. There's a shoulder that, with the hard line shoulder, that eases and fades as you hit the off-ramp. So these people are riding around the shoulder. All they're going to have to do is force their way back into traffic or eat the dirt. So I look at it this way. I think I was saving them from a potential accident on the off-ramp. I was actually doing my part to assist them.
That's an excellent way to look at it.
And
weren't you on I-5?
At one point.
Okay.
So
even people on this from the coast on the right know that I-5 is one of the major arteries on the entire left coast. I mean, it goes from Mexico up to Canada, and it's a wonderful and beyond. It's a wonderful drug-carrying freeway. It's a huge freeway.
Yep.
And didn't you say it was screwed up by a truck?
Yeah. So I-5 just before the airport in Sacramento. If you want to pull up Google Maps and follow along at home, feel free. There's what's called the YOLO bypass, and it's this huge floodplain, essentially, with an elevated 2-lane freeway in either direction. Separated, they're not connected, the two freeways, north and south. The problem is the YOLO bypass and the YOLO causeway to the south, when you have a windstorm like this, it's exacerbated because it shoots up that floodplain, and it's a deep floodplain. It comes flying up that floodplain. And it's happened a few times where it's strong enough to blow a tractor trailer over.
Oh, yeah, they have wind warnings.
Oh, yeah.
For tall vehicles.
And if the trucks are empty and it has no weight to hold it down, it will blow over. The one tonight, looking at the pictures that I had plenty of time while I was in park and surfing on my phone, the pictures that I saw, it not only did it blow the truck over, but it was in the left-hand lane, and it almost rolled over the guardrail, and it would have dropped. You look at the pictures, the back tires were on, touching the guardrail. So if it had a little bit more top-heavy or a little bit more inertia when it started to fall, it could have completely rolled, and it would have dropped 40 feet.
I was just going to say, for the people that don't know what we're talking about, when you go off the pavement and over the guardrail of that, I'd estimate that's a good 45 feet straight down into the drink. So if your cab or your cockpit happen to go down, you're not going to hit the hard ground. No, you're going to drown.
Yeah. Well, and right now, because of the amount of rains and everything we've had, the floodplain is completely full. They have the weirs that they open up off the Sacramento River and flood it out.
Oh, yeah.
So, it's a catch-22. Your fall maybe is softened a little bit by the 12 feet of water that you would hit. On the other hand,
you're still going to drown. Oh, good to know.
Luckily, everything I read is that the driver was okay. So they force us off the freeway, and then you get pushed towards the city called Davis. You haven't Googled Davis, don't waste your time. It's Diet Berkeley.
People's Republic of Davis is what it's called.
I call it the Communist Republic of Davis, is my preferential word for it. Tweet two things. $100,000 to save toads, Davis, California.
Yes. Oh, I forgot about that until now. You're right.
And man issued citation for snoring for noise abatement, Davis, California. So you get forced towards the lovely city of Davis. And I know that there's a bypass that goes out into the county where you can get around Davis. So I take that all the way out past the dump. I come south. You get on this road called Childs Road.
Oh, I know where that is. Right. Okay.
Yep. It brings you up next to the freeway in an eastbound direction. Then you cut under the freeway and jump on. Well, just before I cut under the freeway, I was passed by CHP, the California Highway Patrol, who, all joking aside, say what you want about any of them, they're all out there working their asses off tonight in horrific conditions, trying to keep people safe. These guys were everywhere, soaked to the bone. No less than probably 8 accidents I saw driving here tonight. All had a couple of CHP guys out there and the other public safety workers that are out there working this horrific storm tonight.
I had my own mantra when I was working. I used to say the only time that I ever felt sorry for CHP is when it was raining.
Yeah, it was horrible.
Other than that, no.
But these guys and gals are out there and they're working hard, and I know they are. So,
it's terrible out there.
So and rightfully so, he cuts off the road. Come to find out, I eventually saw it an hour and a half later. There was a power line down across the road further up that must have fell just a couple minutes before I got there, because the chippy came up, blocked the road off, and forced me back westbound. I'm trying to go eastbound, folks.
That's right. I want to get to work. I want to be on the radio. I don't want to go home.
So I went east. I got forced way south, and then I get forced back west for about 8 miles in no traffic. In utter traffic, completely full. So as I'm getting off to turn around in the city of Davis, because I was forced back to Davis, in the eastbound direction, which is the road I'm trying to actually get to. I'm trying to go east. And as I'm coming up over the overpass or onto the off-ramp, I see the fire and medics starting to drive eastbound on I-80. Yes, there was another accident in the direction that I was trying to go in. The problem is when you're on this side of the Sacramento River up north, there's no plan C.
No, you're funneled in. If you make past that certain point, there is no plan C. You're right. That's it. You're caught. You're trapped. Bring a book. Have a flashlight. And a Twinkie.
I actually had to get off and get gas because I had sat in traffic for so long. I lost a lot of gas. Grab some food, because I had no other choice. I literally could have left my truck in the middle of the street in front of the McDonald's instead of going through the drive-thru. Walked in, ordered, sat, ate, came back out, and my truck still wouldn't have had to move. Like, I wouldn't have lost anywhere in traffic. And Back door sounds like a Twilight Zone episode. Wherever you go, you wind up in Davis. That's what it felt like tonight. Normally,
that'd make a great title for a TV show. No matter where you go, you end up in Davis.
Normally, a 45-minute commute max, 2.5 hours. And this weather's going to start. The worst part of it's going now through Monday, and the worst of it's not supposed to be here till the weekend.
Well, it's windy as shite out there right now.
So many power lines down.
I was talking about how it was a crapshoot. You'd come up to an intersection to be black, come up to another one be lit. The power outages were really spotty. So I come up to an intersection that I talked about earlier. It's black. There's an arseload of cars all around it, and one guy right behind me goes right through. Right through the intersection. How he didn't get T-boned, I have no idea.
And you know what's funny is I always joke about California drivers, but because they suck. And I come from Boston.
Yeah, that's a hell of a standard.
We may have worse traffic than this area, at least the greater Sacramento area, not California, but not worse drivers per se, in my opinion. California drivers are insane. And they're great if they're doing 90 miles an hour in one direction without having to stop, slow, turn, or change lanes. Once you throw one of those confusing variables at them, the car literally just explodes. I've never seen, I have never seen out here, and I've probably seen it 30 times, where cars are going 90 miles an hour in bad weather, knowing that it's going to slow down eventually. The brake lights come on. They hit the brake lights, hydroplane, and go off into a ditch. It happens all the time. And I also come from a place where we drive in snow on a regular basis.
Right, exactly. Can you imagine what had happened? I have to say this. I actually saw it snow one time in Sacramento.
Yeah.
It did snow.
My first year I was living out here, we got some snow where I was living at the time, just outside of Sacramento. Not a lot, but it put a little bit of a white tint to the grass, and it lasted very briefly.
Yeah, we had about maybe 2 inches, and it was gone the next day.
Oh, yeah, no, it's not going to last. But I can't imagine what this place would do in the snow. So I appreciate everyone sticking with us. I know it's just been one of those nights, but hey, weather dictates all. And
again, I apologize for what obviously didn't sound like dead air to me, but must have been dead air to everybody else. And everybody else was going, what the hell is he saying? I don't get it.
I look at it as the beatings will continue until morale improves.
And I feel sad for Ken. Ken was trying to assemble a show just before us. And poor Ken was having some issues.
Technical issues?
Yeah, some bad technical issues. So clearly there must be a lot of crap happening back in D.C. as well.
I have, and I out there, I'm sure that with this specific inauguration coming up here in just a few short days, 2 to be exact, you have an influx of internet data, cellular, and media use into that even more so than they get every day. And I almost wonder if that does not impede the residential service. Because you think about a lot of these shows now are broadcast via internet. They use the ISDN, I think is what they call it.
That's
that real thick line. And those switches and networks can only take so much before they get overloaded. So I have no doubt that there's issues. I am shocked, and here it is at 9:38 with 20 minutes left in the show. I am shocked that we still have power.
I was fully expecting, because we'd both corresponded back and forth to Sackhead's Clint, who said he had no power. And I was full expecting when I came here to see the neighborhood just dark.
Well, and when I was leaving the city I live in, it was everywhere. I mean, I want to say probably my neighborhood and maybe 1 or 2 more because we're on a hospital line. The power goes up through my neighborhood to the hospital that's a couple blocks north of us.
Oh, well, that's a good thing,
always
actually.
One of the last ones to lose it and always one of the first ones to get it back because of that. But even we were flickering, which we hadn't done before. We were flickering hard. We lost power for a couple minutes and then it came back because it reroutes because we're on that nice reroute. But the rest of the city was out like crazy all over the place. And then coming through all the various areas, you could see the power outages out in the distance. So it's a pretty rough storm out here, and we're hoping to be able to make it through to the end of the show. I already said the ultimate irony would be if I made it all the way here, sat down, got ready to do at least the last few minutes, and the power dropped.
I had already sworn to myself that if you got here at 2 minutes till, I was going to get out of the chair and force you to say at least one sentence.
And, you talk about respect, and of course, BZ still the FNG. And by the way, great show last night. I do.
Thank you very much.
If you don't have a chance, make sure you check out BZ's on the Berserk Ball Pacat Saloon on his initial show. It was the introductory one. It was
There'll never be another one like that.
The cherry was busted, so to speak. And it was an amazing show. Hearing about the history was pretty awesome. And you're an amazing guy, and you have a great story to tell, and you tell it very, very well. And I appreciated it very much.
Here's your 20. Thank you.
No,
you are an honorable person. You said you'd say that if I paid you $20. Thank you. You did.
Yeah, but
you're a good person. I like you.
I still said it would be another. It'd be a point and a half if I went with the extra mile. So it's going to be 30 by the time we're done. No, but I thank you for that. And then obviously. This week on SHR, we're going to have so many great shows, and we're going to have people checking in from the inauguration. Thursday and Friday.
Do you know who's doing that on Friday?
I know Carrie Donovan's going to be checking in. I know, obviously, Ken.
Is it going to be on everyone's show, sort of a continuing thread kind of thing?
No, only because I don't know how she would be able to do that continuously. There's just so much going on that it would be really, really difficult. I know Ralph is and Lonnie and Ralph Lion Chasers. Yeah, Lonnie and Ralph. I know Ralph's Chittum's going to be trying to do a mobile show while he's at the inauguration.
Boy, good luck getting into that.
So that'll be a lot of fun if he could pull that off. And he and I went back and forth tonight on how to do that. And it's just going to be a lot of great coverage. So, looking forward to that. I did hear when I first walked in, you were talking about the infamous pig picture that's up in the House of Reps.
Gone now.
Absolutely should be amazing. Carrie's also going to be on EDL radio with Agador, 12:30 on Sunday, 12:30 p.m. Eastern. Oh, my time, Pacific time. So check that out as well. So yeah, it's amazing to me. You talked about this a lot tonight. The elections have consequences statement, and like I did listen on the way in. I even tried to call, but you screwed it up.
So that's why. Okay, all right. You know what I mean? I even if you had called and gotten through, I probably would have dropped your ass because I wouldn't know what button to hit.
Here's the funniest part about all of this is as I'm going through all of our call logs right now, there's about 19 missed calls, and probably 5 of them are from me. Yeah, 15 of them are from me. I didn't call 15 times. That's not true. But yeah, so, elections do have consequences. And as we talked about before, Democrats are like the petulant child. They do not want to admit that Donald Trump won because of their actions. They want to make it about Donald Trump winning an election because of the racism, hating, 1%ers, all these other things that they try to paint the conservatives and the Republicans as being. The reality is as many people voted for Donald Trump for the person, that many more people, I think, voted for Donald Trump for the change against the norm and Hillary. So there's no reflection on the left, which I think is amazing. And they keep putting this out there. They're going to protest and all this other shit. When the reality is you were the assholes that blew it. Because I've said this time and again, if they ran Biden, we could be having a very different inauguration this week.
It's entirely possible. Number one, Joe is entertaining.
Oh, I love Joe.
Number two,
I'm missing 2 days. I'm gonna miss Joe.
Number two, Joe actually does. He goes through a cloud of common sense every now and then.
Well, here's the deal with Joe. Joe knows when something's on the line, and Joe knows when to keep it together.
He's a politician that Hillary Clinton would not have been, and Obama definitely was not, and William Clinton was.
Yep, and listen, I'm not a huge Biden fan because of his policies, but I also think he's a lot more sane than just about anybody else on the left is.
He would actually have been willing to
I think he would have worked a lot more.
compromise.
Yeah, I think so.
And-
He would have
and-
done some horrific things, I have no doubt.
Yes.
But he would have been a little bit more palatable.
He would have. He's not Hillary Clinton. He's not that nutty.
Yep, he's not. He may say nutty things, but he's not as crazy. He is who he is.
And the other thing is, he's likable.
Yeah.
He's likable.
Yeah.
People like him. He has a history. And
look at how many women take pictures with him.
I hate to say it, but it would have been also the Bo having passed away, his son. He would have gotten some for that as well, the sympathy vote.
And it's so funny because, the reason Joe didn't run is what would have had Joe win. The fact that he really said, hey, I want to spend time with my family. I have grandkids who need raising. I have a lot of things I need to focus on. That was his big reason. Anyone on the inside has said that that's the actual reason he didn't run, is he wants to focus on family. So politics aside, you have to give the man a lot of respect for making that choice. Bo's children need that influence. They need that person to be there in their life. And I think Joe legitimately wants to be there for them, which you can't say for a lot of politicians.
Right. It's one of those cases where I can say I don't care for his politics.
Mm-hmm.
I like the man.
I think he's a pretty decent guy as a
And
person.
I do believe that he's fundamentally a decent individual.
Yeah, politics aside. If you throw politics out, I feel like Joe's a guy I could sit and have a beer with on a fairly
And
regular
his
basis.
politics are left.
Yep.
But they're not so left.
Which is why
oh
the
my
Democrats
God.
really didn't want him. That's why the leadership pushed Hillary for years, and Joe knew that as well. So I did actually want to do this tonight. I wanted to thank Vice President Biden for all the comedy over the last 8 years.
It's been grand.
On this show specifically, we have gotten so much play out of Joe Biden.
He's the gift that kept on giving.
Yeah, he really was. But, he also, I've said this time and again, I think he knows that this administration used him when he needed it and then threw him into the closet when they felt he was a liability. They only brought Joe out when they needed the older white vote for things or the older white support.
Well, come on. That's why he was installed in the first place.
And then he was thrown into a closet. So, but the comedy for the last 8 years, that really, to me, summed up.
I'll go after that guy with a shotgun.
Oh, yeah. 2 through the door. We actually titled our show 2 through the door. Because you put 2 blasts through the door and it'll be fine. It's just awesome. I mean, you can't be he's the vice president, for God's sakes. Shit, everyone gave Bush's vice president there. I can't even, his name just escaped me.
Which Bush?
No, George W.
Come on.
Oh, Cheney.
There you go.
Gosh, I don't know why I couldn't pull Cheney out. Everyone gave Cheney shit for shooting his buddy in the face, but it was a hunting accident. Joe's advocating blasting 2 rounds through a door without even looking to see who's on the other side.
Who cares what's on the other side of that door?
It's awesome. It's so great. This is the vice president. Agador says 2 through the door. Is that a movie title? Yes, but it's 18 plus.
Yeah, that and the 2 words glory hole should not be used together.
Mamba says he has no pity for Biden. He did suffer a loss, but he's still an asshole. Maybe have a beer with him if you would pay for him. I don't know. Joe will stab you in the back, in my humble opinion. I don't know. I think political Joe and personal Joe are very different people.
I think they are. And the other thing is, I think political Joe is political Joe because he'll go with the prevailing prairie winds.
Right. Political Joe will stab you in the political back.
Yes.
But I think personal Joe is a little bit different. I think if you're a friend of Joe, you're a friend of Joe. I think he's one of those guys that outside of politics, if he's your buddy, he'll take care of you. And if he's not your buddy, he'll, throw malarkey at you, as he used to like to say.
Malarkey.
But yeah, so I want to thank Vice President Biden for the comedy for the last 8 years, because you really didn't.
Well, there had to be, for Christ's sake, there had to be some comedy relief. Everything was so damn serious.
He did nothing else, though. Really, as a vice president, He did nothing else.
Oh, he did do one thing.
What's that?
One thing. At the very end, he said, with regard to Trump, it's over.
Yeah. Yeah, well, he was the only one in the administration to say that. It's amazing to me. But yeah, I mean, that's really all he had done in 8 years. That and said they're going to put you back in chains while addressing a predominantly black crowd in South Carolina 4 years ago. So that tells you where Joe's mind.
Hey there, Jim. I want to tell Jim Blair and that crowd up there. Stand up for us now, Jim.
Oh my God, it was one of the best. Poor guy's in a wheelchair. Jim, stand up and give a wave. He's in a wheelchair, Joe. You know what, Jim? Just sit there. We'll wave at you.
That's right.
God, he's in the wheelchair. I didn't even know it. I didn't even hear me talking. No, he's not deaf, Joe. He's in a wheelchair. Right. Same thing.
Come on, stand up there.
Oh, God. He's also the guy that says you've never been to a Dunkin' Donuts in Washington without seeing an Indian working. Remember that little gaffe?
Well,
I actually, for this show...
On the other hand, occasionally the truth does come through.
No. I agree with that. But when you're on TV, you're not supposed to say such things when you're the vice president. This show, I had a whole list of Joe gaffes that I wanted to play and do a whole segment for Joe because it was magical.
I would love to have heard that. Loved it.
We, on this show for a long time, we had a segment we called Dare Joe Biden, in which we would think of the most crazy and insane things that we would think of and dare Joe Biden to do it because it's possible that he just might. So I want to issue one last dare to Vice President Joe Biden. I dare you to go with your family and take care of them and not come back to politics. That's my dare. If I actually believe that, like I said, I believe he's doing it for the right reason. Enjoy it. Do what you need to do. Take care of the kids. I respect that. And if you're really doing that for the right reasons, great. If you're not, then I'm going to come back in a few months and call you an asshole for it. Either way.
If only we could get the Clintons and the Obamas to do the same thing. Not just go away, go the hell away.
Yeah, seriously, far, far away. Unfortunately, my next message is to President Obama. I know you're not going away.
Oh, no. No.
And I know that you believe your work isn't done. I've said this time and again. I believe you're going to see a push in the next couple of years to repeal the two-term limit on presidency, trying to get that man back into office. I've said this time and again, and I absolutely believe it. It is just as reasonable as the idea of California segregating from the rest of the country. I don't feel that this is an unreasonable expectation out of the left because they've set the bar so low that anything's on the table.
I think Obama, if he decides that he's going to go for that push, he's going to have some competition in the form of Cory Booker.
Yes. No. If they actually pass that, it would be Obama again. Booker would be his vice president. I believe that.
Depends on what Cory Booker does between now and 4 more years to consolidate power.
I don't believe so.
You don't think he's got the chops?
I think Obama is the idealist that they want. My challenge to President Obama is this. Look, you had 8 years. You dumped a bunch of crap down our throats. We were forced to eat the shit sandwich that you made for us. A lot of that can be undone. A lot of things...
And it's going to be undone.
A lot of things can be fixed, but the damage that you've done and the legacy you leave is a damaged, fractured nation. It was not like this before you took office. And I know that you will never look at it the same way as we do. I know that you will never look back and realize that you destroyed the very fabric of relation in this country between groups of people who maybe not saw eye to eye but were cordial to each other. You have created the very vitriol you've spoken against publicly, yet you'll come out and encourage it in other ways without directly encouraging it. From the beginning with Robert Gates, right through to this upcoming inauguration, when you have the opportunity to go out in the next 2 days and do one of your little video YouTube things that you love to do and make public that anybody who protests this inauguration is un-American. not because you're not exercising your right to protest, but because you're not respecting our system of government.
No, did he ever say anything similar to, no matter what happened, Mr. Trump is going to be the president?
I think he's alluded to it.
You should do the best. Yes.
And
he danced around it.
Yeah, and he needs to come out and call for it. He needs to come out and say, if you show up and you protest this inauguration, the next day if you want to go protest in front of the White House for the next 4 years, go right ahead. But for the inauguration, the peaceful transition of power, the right that we have to elect our leaders, though we may disagree with some majorly, the simple fact is the people have spoken. The system that we have works, whether people like it or not. And until it's changed, this is the accepted system and part of who we are.
Well, a king's ex of civility for one day, for Christ's sake.
Yep.
Just one day.
And
honeymoon? Trump is not going to get any honeymoon.
There will be no honeymoon whatsoever.
None.
And then when you're done with that, if you actually have the stones to do that little speech, pack your family, go on a vacation, do whatever you want to do. You love to vacation and golf, so now you have plenty of time to do that. And stay the hell away. Like or dislike the man, understand that George W. Bush disappeared for the last 8 years. He didn't pull a Clinton where he's coming out and second-guessing so many things on a public record. The peaceful transition of power that you said ridiculously was amazing under the Bush administration. It's your job to do that under this administration.
Well, this administration is it's completely unhinged.
4 minutes.
It's off the hook. Here's a perfect example. Was it not the greatest irony in the world when Obama commutes the sentence of Bradley Manning, now Chelsea Manning?
Yes.
While conversely, U.S. intelligence is accusing WikiLeaks of influencing the 2016 election.
Mm-hmm.
Gosh, do you see any irony in that whatsoever?
No.
No, of course not.
Of course not. I do not see it. Sorry, 3 minutes left and everyone's had a whole show, so they're going to start asking me questions. Oh, but this one's for you. Do you publicly think, I didn't have anything to say anyhow, I'll ask you. Did you publicly think that Obama will convert to Islam after he's out? I say no, because if he is, then it's just he's going to keep that veil up to stay who he is.
No, he won't go that direction because it's still not sufficiently politically correct to make that embracement.
It doesn't make his... And you know, it's funny, I don't know, I've talked about him in Islam before. I don't necessarily think that he's an Islamist.
He's not a Muslim. I don't believe he's a Muslim. He is a sympathizer.
Yes.
He's not a true Muslim.
I think he likes their values.
He does.
I don't think he wants to
and he sympathizes.
He doesn't want to live near their restrictions.
No.
I really believe that. That's my opinion on that.
He's not going to get his feet sandy.
Yeah. All right, well, that was good. Does anyone else want to ask Mark any other questions while I finally got here 25 minutes ago?
Hey, I got sent a message from Jersey Joe.
Yes.
And he says, hey, would you guys do me a favor and announce tomorrow on the Reaver of Common Sense that he's going to have Russ on from Project Veritas. And I talked about Project Veritas earlier in the show today, who James O'Keefe does amazing work, absolutely amazing work. So, ladies and gentlemen, Jersey Joe's show starts at, 8 o'clock Pacific, 11 o'clock Eastern. He can be reached right here at the SHR Media Network site. So click live, and you'll hear Jersey Joe, and you'll hear all about Project Veritas. And I think that'd be a great show. Oh, and I forgot one thing. I promoted it at the very beginning. Jeff Dunitz had a show where he had Kurt Schlichter on for an hour. I would highly recommend everyone listen to that, too. Anybody and everybody on the SHR Media Network, it's a burgeoning network. You need to listen to everybody, period. Don't do anything. Don't go to work. Don't sleep. Just listen.
And as the soon-to-be former host of the show, apparently, I keep getting demoted. I used to do the intros and outros, and I used to not have to be the engineer. And now, you just did the outro. I'm the engineer.
No, there's no outro. We still got another minute.
Eventually, I'm going to be being the head bottle washer here, and that's about it at the SHR Media Network. Well, maybe next week you'll just let me call in. Folks, this has been the second.
Oh, go see Patriots Day.
Yes. Yeah. No, that's a huge one. Take part in your inauguration. Watch the inauguration. Be part of the American history. Whether you agree or disagree with the man who's about to be elected, it is important for you and your children to understand our system of government.
Oh, hell yes.
Understand, we all know that the left could be in this position in 4 years, but it's still important to understand how we transition, why we transition. Watch it. It's history. It's right in front of you. Like it or hate it, it's history.
Exactly. God bless America.
God bless America. This is the Sackheads Radio Show live in the SHR Media Network. We will be back next week, hopefully at 8 p.m. Pacific, as long as there's not another fucking monsoon that blows through. Jesus. Have a safe week. Stay dry. Stay warm. Hey, if you go to the inauguration and you want to send us pictures, I'm going to start doing a photo catalog on the website Friday.
Excellent.
Thank you, my friend, honestly. And
very welcome.
All joking aside, thank you
BZ's
for carrying the
Buzzet
show, brother.
Bobcat Saloon next Tuesday, 8 p.m. Well, just the same time as you guys.
Yes.
Starting at 8 p.m. Pacific, 11 p.m. Eastern.
And thank you to the listeners who stuck out with us even tonight with all the tragedy that is weather. We will be back. Have a great rest of your week.
The best late-night conservative talk show in America, Sackheads Radio. And listen, there are no people better on the air to give you the best in conservative talk than Sackhead Sean and Sackhead Clint. And we're working on the immigration papers for a certain other guy who happens to work here, too. For those who are tuning in around the world to the best in late-night conservative talk, Sackheads Radio.
Radio. Radio.
The best late-night conservative talk show in America. In America.
And in this web was a large, I'm pretty sure it was the biggest spider I've ever seen.